Hello everyone and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and after 40 years in business, I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR, we created a format where we really invite people, it's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics, and the range is going from AI, of course, to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cappuccino with HR. And today I'm really delighted to have Margareta Sailer a second time with us. And last time we were talking about upskilling, and today we are talking about learning and, more important, unlearning. So a new topic and a new word, probably new buzzword, but we're trying to find this out. So Meggy, I'm really happy to have you again, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me for a second time, Rudi. I can't believe it. I'm so excited to always be here and talk to you guys and be part of Cappuccino with HR. It's so great to share some wisdom with our HR colleagues and hopefully anyone else who listens today. And learning and unlearning is a really big thing for me. I know, same for you. You know, we are generally the types of people who like continuous learning, and we like to be curious about learning, but equally I also understand that at the moment there's a lot of uncertainty for people. There's a lot of talks about learning, there's a lot of talks about AI, so this will be hopefully a really great and really insightful discussion for anyone who listens today.
And last time I remember I asked you, because I ask all my guests what's favorite coffee, and it was cappuccino. And just to align on it, is it still the same or has it changed in the meantime?
Nope. Still the same.
Still the same.
And I had my second one today just for this podcast. Just to make them fully aware.
Yeah, very cool. When we just to quickly jump into the topic, I mean, I want to raise the first question. Why do you believe that learning and unlearning has become so essential in this fast and rapid changing world?
Yeah. It's generally a really good question. And I think there's quite a few things to it, right? I think one thing that I think is really important to think about is really remind ourselves, why we feel like we're in this bubble at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot of push for artificial intelligence and learning, but the reality is, and we've talked about this before, we are really in the fourth industrial revolution, right? And like any revolution, things are changing and things are changing quickly. So, we talked about this before, our forefathers, our grandparents, most likely they will have gone through an industrial revolution, same as our parents did with the internet. And now we're in the fourth industrial revolution. And, AI has been around since the 1960s in some shape or form. But why are we feeling this so much now? Why does this feel so different? And actually, if you think about the likes of ChatGPT, these systems have been in use for the last 4 years. And they're really pushing now into companies. They're pushing into our day-to-day life. So AI, as we know it, or how we're experiencing it, actually completely reshapes the workplace experience for an employee, but also for anyone who runs the company. So everything we have done in the past now is done through an AI. So all the mundane jobs that some of us hate so much and some of us might like, but a lot of the mundane jobs are being taken over by AI. And so it is essential actually that we learn how to work with AI, that we generally open to learn, because let's be honest about this. This is what will make the difference. And I think this is so important for anyone who listens, that willingness to learn and that ability to learn will make a difference in how do I get promotions in the future? How do I get that one job that I might really fancy, that one company I always wanted to get into? Actually, showing that you have the ability to learn and that you continue to learn, that's what's going to make the massive difference for you now and also in the future. So I think, honestly, it's really about understanding, where we are and really looking into the history of time, because why have some of us managed to keep going? Think about this, right? Again, think back to history. Why have some people managed to keep going throughout revolutions and stuff like that? Typically, it's because they're adapting. Typically, it's because they're learning. And typically, it's because they are adapting to what change is happening, and then they work with the changes. So that's actually why I think it's so important right now to really have that emphasis on learning. And also there's an element of unlearning, and we can talk about that if you want, because unlearning is, I think unlearning is also important depending on how you look at it.
Part, because I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and there was Johannes Kopf, who is the CEO of the IMS, the Austrian Agency for Work, was on stage, and he said that he personally believes that it doesn't even matter what we learn in school, yeah, and it could be even Greek or the old version of Greek language, so it could be everything, or Latinum, the great Latinum. It's more the question that we don't lose more or less the willingness to learn lifelong. And he says, okay, it doesn't even matter what we learn in school. So it's more this kind of how could we guarantee that we don't lose the willingness to learn? Because, I mean, he has sometimes the impression, and I want to get your take on this, he gets something the impression that already in school you are forced to just want to bring it behind you. I mean, you want to finish it, you want to get out of it, and then you probably can sit somewhere and say, learning is over now.
Yeah.
And what's your take? Do you see it similar, that it doesn't even matter what we learn today or tomorrow? So it's just this adaptability and this willingness to learn new things?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and what I can use this actually. Before I came onto this podcast today, my partner and I, whilst we were having lunch, we actually watched a German physicist. I forgot her name. I will figure it out later. We watched a German physicist, and she was talking about a Belgian boy who is 12, and he just got his PhD in, what is it? It's not quantum physics. It's something like that. At 12 years old, and she decided, and this is I'm fully with her. So she said the reason why I brought this onto my YouTube channel today is because I'm so inspired by the learning. Because it doesn't matter if you have a PhD when you're 12. Because most people think you do this in your 20s, or it doesn't mean that you're doing it later. It's all about making sure that you don't use your ability for learning. And I thought, yeah, exactly. It's so true. And this is exactly what we're talking about today. So I am with him. The ability to learn is important. But you know what the really interesting part is about the ability to learn? Actually, the ability to learn is given to you as a small child. This is something that happens to us, when we're born, when we come into this world first. We're building this neuroplasticity just purely and simply as little children, as babies, to survive. It helps us to go through adversity. It's here to actually help us thrive in adversity. So it is ingrained in us. I think it's just that as you grow older and as you have maybe a lot more pressures in life, or it's easy to forget about it. I think generally it's easy to forget about the fact that you have this ability, or you just simply don't think you have the time to. But it's there. We can tap into it anytime. Everyone has it. It's given to us. It's for us, it's just cultivating it. So I'm with him. I agree with him. Yeah.
I want to come to the new term for me. I mean, it's not a new term for me, but I think it's a fascinating term, is unlearning, because what I sometimes have the impression is that people are in their jobs. They have done this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And the willingness to move on to new things means if you learn new things, you probably have to get rid of old stigmas and all kind of stereotypes. And that's a kind. This is my understanding of unlearning. Is it what you meant with when you brought up the topic? Is it to say goodbye to things that we have ever done like this?
Kind of, yeah. I think for me, unlearning is probably part of letting go of habits that we form throughout life, either at work or in private life, and there are habits that no longer serve us well. So yeah, to an extent, we're actually talking about the same. So what I mean by that is, let's just say over time, and a lot of us do this, by the way, and I've been there at some point, we surround ourselves with so much stuff at work that we just constantly now are day to day. And what we have done really well, that's great. We continue to do blindly because it's easier and you're on autopilot, because sometimes there's so much going on next to you. But actually, most importantly, is to actually sit and reflect and really start to ask yourself, Why do I believe that this is the only way? So why do I really think that this is the only way of doing a job? Because essentially that's not true. So it's about sitting there and unlearning your habits. And how do you unlearn a habit or belief? Some people generally believe, and this is true, they generally believe that they can't learn from other people, that they can't learn from a new system, that they know everything, that they can't learn anything new from a new situation. But the reality is it's not the case, because they've always learned up to this point. And the reality is you probably still learn, even if it's not in your conscious mind. But I think this is about unlearning, is about bringing your unconscious mind to the surface and consciously asking yourself is like, why do I believe this? And then I think it's just more about going into and changing your mindset. And changing your mindset, not so much, but changing a habit takes 21 days. There's research behind it that you can change habits. You just have to do something for 21 days. So that could literally be that I set myself a time every day for 15 minutes to learn something new. Or even if it just means I'm preparing a list of podcasts that I want to listen to about something new in the world. Or if that means I'm going to find myself a new app that I can play with and learn a new skill, because there's such good stuff out there now. You can learn like a child, you can research, you can listen to a podcast. It's amazing. So it's about consciously sitting and challenging yourself, because actually challenging yourself has a lot of really good positive benefits. And I can talk to you about this later, because I think it's good to understand what actually success means for us as human beings and why it drives us, and then just focus on that. When you think about unlearning, focus on the other side, So I don't like the word unlearning, but it's just the word we need to give it, right? But essentially you're breaking a habit.
Yeah. But I think if I summarize it for myself now, I think it means if you want to learn new things, you need to be curious, you need to be open for new things.
Yep.
If you want to unlearn things, you need to be self-reflected, and you need to probably change your mindset or your habits.
Yep.
And you need the willingness to do so.
Yeah,
right?
Completely. Yes, I think that's probably the harder part.
And I mean, I want to come to another point now. When we are living in times where it's uncertain, you mentioned the Industrial Revolution 4.0, so it's probably all second or third or fourth generation of Industrial Revolution, depending on what we count in. So we are having a kind of discomfort. We are having a kind of times where we probably need to risk to make failures. What are the important ingredients to survive in such a phase? Is it resilience? Is it curiosity? Is it a combination of resilience and curiosity? What do you think is necessary on a skills level or on a personal skills level? But also, probably the second part of the question, what does it mean for companies and for leadership?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I'll probably start more with the psychological aspect of facing discomfort and facing failure, because I think for us as humans, it doesn't matter if I work in a company and I'm in an HR department and I'm creating an employee journey about learning or failure culture, or if I'm a person, an employee myself, or I lead a team. I think it's really good to understand where this fear of failure and discomfort comes from. So actually in us human beings, that feeling of discomfort or failure actually from little child on comes out as either shame or regret. So these are typically the emotions connected to it, because actually children, when they're 2 to 3 years old, this is when we start for the first time really making sense of our environment, and we're responding to our environment. So if I do something that seems wrong, we start associating that with shame. And then this shame later in life, when we get older, quite often stops us from being uncomfortable and going for something that's hard, because we don't want to feel like a failure. We don't want to feel the shame. So I think once you understand these emotions behind it as an individual, you can actually then start focusing on what you should be doing, right? Talking about how do you overcome this. And I personally, what I think works for me quite well is rather than focusing on the discomfort, which I equally have, just like other people, I'm not born with infamous, what's the word in English? ability to just go up and do things. Some people can do that. I'm not. I just feel fear like other people. So actually the thing that I help myself with, and this helps other people because I notice I've talked about this with different people, it's about challenging your mindset and then thinking about the outcome of the other side. So if I hate public speaking or going on a podcast or whatever it might be, I focus on what's the outcome. I know I'm going to feel fear, whatever it might be in this time, but what is the upside of it? So the upside is once you have done it, again, going back to human psychology, it makes us feel good. The little wins, the big wins are the things that we need as humans psychologically to feel good about ourselves and to learn. So again, when you're in this state where you're fearful about, is my job going away? Will I not do it? It's actually, no, think about the other side. So if you learn about this, in this case, I know because at work, the topic is artificial intelligence. If I learn about these new systems, how does that actually enhance my life after? How does it help me in my everyday life? Because these tools are here to make things easier for us, not harder, even if we're in this transition where things starting to work and they're not properly work, but in 5 to 10 years, they will do an awful lot of really good stuff for us. So I think it's that focus on the other side. We really need those goals as human beings, and use it like a muscle, actually. I'd say, failure is like, failing enough. It's creating like a muscle reflection to know that if I fail often enough, I get to something good. So I think it's about that, really, or at least for me and people I speak to, that's quite helpful.
I mean, I love that. I love the picture with the muscle because I think it's probably like training other muscles in your body. It's a kind of exercising it in starting with small portions and increasing the ratio and increasing the power and the pressure from day over day. So I think that's probably extremely helpful. I mean, when I grew up, there was a kind of one of the skills that everybody wanted to see in companies was perseverance. Yeah, we're living in a world where things are changing so fast. Yeah, and I think sometimes perseverance is mixed up a little bit with stubbornness.
Yeah, true. Probably, but that's not a bad trait to have.
No, definitely not. I mean, anyhow, I'm not waging things because I think probably there's no good and no bad, and there's no right and no wrong. But do you think that perseverance in times like this could be a kind of a blocking factor?
It's a good question. I don't think it is, as long as you have a flexible mindset enough to shift your perspective at any given time. I personally think perseverance is good, and perseverance is what gets you further when other people give up. So that's a very good skill to have. I think you just need to make sure you have that flexible mindset that if it doesn't go your way specifically, that you think things should be going, as long as you are open enough to figure out a different way, which you typically are if you persevere. So it depends really on your personality, but typically people who persevere always look for a way to get something done. It doesn't matter how they do it. So as long as you stick to that core skill, I think it's a really good human trait to have. It's just, you talked before also, and I didn't answer that, you talked before about what companies can do in this time where everything is so uncertain, and how they can actually help people to overcome their fear of failure. And, we talked a second ago more about us as individuals, what we can do as employees or somebody who runs a company. From a perspective of an organization or company that is actually trying to help to take their employees on a journey, I think it's just really important, as it has always been, let's be honest about this, to talk a lot about failure. So creating this safe space in the company where senior management doesn't mind about speaking of failures that happened, and actually celebrate people that have failures but come out with something really good at the end. So that could be, for example, when companies have monthly meetings where everybody gets together, they should give a platform to their employees to talk about the failures and the findings they had through something, just to make sure that nobody else makes the same mistake. But also sometimes somebody else might be working on the same thing and you don't know it. And equally, they can see that you are celebrating that failure, that this is a good thing to make mistakes, because depending on what country we live in, depending on what culture we live in, failure might not be seen as a good thing, and then your people do feel shame and they never want to try to do anything. So from a company perspective, I think it's super important to create that environment, that really safe space. And even if that means as a manager, so if I have a group of people that I manage, even just to have a weekly conversation to say, hey guys, who's fucked up something this week or this month? And what is it that you fucked up? And did you come to a conclusion, or did we draw to an end? And just really encouraging these sessions just in your team. When you're a manager, let's say your company doesn't have a culture of failure, how can you help yourself as a manager? Have those conversations with your team and then coach them through it like a football coach would, or any sports coach would. It's like, yeah, failure is good. You got to fail to get to the wins.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's probably also a good tip for companies on how they can help themselves through this time,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually creating those environments where people can really learn, and having a good solid HR, L&D department that can really focus on what is it that our people need to learn, and then really focusing on these habits or skills or tools or techniques, and give them time to learn. I think that helps in uncertain times for employees as well, have that security.
I think that's very important to get this kind of you could easily call it failure culture or learning culture. I think we need to develop that further on, because I think we're living in worlds where nobody has got the right answer. Yeah, no. And even if it's the right answer today, it could be the wrong answer tomorrow already. Yeah. So, and that brings me again to the unlearning. I really love this unlearning. Because I really love buzzwords, and HR is full. HR is full of buzzwords, and this is probably a new one, unlearning. Yes. Do you think, we are coming out. I skipped the last couple of years now since pandemic, but before, I think we had really decades of continuous success. It was no real crisis, except the crisis in 2009, but there was plenty of years without a crisis. We had a strong industry, especially in Europe. If you look on the German car industry, automotive industry, they were really turned in success. It was really kind of, and they got the impression, and honestly, if you are so successful, you probably manifest yourself in that's the right way. We are definitely on the right track because success has proven it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there is no limits, and the limits are probably the sky is the limit, but the rest is let's continue like we always did because this is successful, or this was successful so far. Yeah. Do we need a kind of, on the top management levels, a kind of unlearning behavior as well to leave this kind of really deeply walked out paths?
Yeah, I think generally that starts with leadership and management every time, because actually leadership and management sets the tone for the rest of the business. It's just what it is. I've also started to talk to people and companies. This is really interesting. Not all companies are doing it yet, but there's some companies who actually employ people to look at their own business models and trying to destroy the company on purpose. So it keeps the company humble, and it keeps them on their toes to figure out what are they not thinking about yet. If they're, like you said, they're following their path that has worked for them really well, or is working this year and maybe next year. They're literally employing people to figure out in 2 or 3 years' time or 4 years' time, what could harm us as a company? What could break us, especially with all this technology coming out? And they're literally focusing teams on that to figure out what could break their companies, just to keep them humble. Because I think it's very easy when you're successful to keep going, because you think that's the winning formula. And you see this even in football, right? When I think about Manchester United, my partner is a massive fan. He's grown up in Manchester. Manchester United has been doing exceptionally well for so many years under Alex Ferguson, and actually, and testament to him and the team at the time, repeating that success has been really hard for them, so hard. And that is a proven example where you could say, if you look into sports, if you're on the top, staying on the top is a lot harder. It's a lot harder. Actually, there was a really cool documentary, I'm not sure if you've seen it, on Netflix recently about the basketball player. What's it called? And it talked about success. I found this super interesting because it talked about how hard it is to be successful in the world. I can't remember. It will come back to me.
If I can't find it right now, we can put it in the link. Then when we can put the name into the description of the posts that we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that is probably what I experience sometimes if I talk to especially managers in my generation, my age. I mean, they have been so successful with what they have done for 10, 15, 20 years
Yep.
that it's very difficult to leave this path, because that would mean, okay, we missed some kind of a change in the street. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think there's something else to it, because once you get really good at something, it's interesting, because it's the same if you think about promotions. When people get promotions through the ranks, but some managers still remain super hands-on in their job, and they can't let go and go to the other more strategic way of thinking. I see this a lot actually when you work in HR. So why do you stick to what you know? Because it's comfortable, because you learned about it so long, because you're really good at it. You finally managed to be really good at something.
yeah.
And then actually it's not even consciously, it's subconsciously you hang on to being there, because that's what you know is really good. So actually then again with businesses, think about what else to do. That takes a lot of juggling your mind and questioning yourself, and sometimes you don't even have to question yourself, which is why it's really good actually, if you're in a leadership position, to either have a coach or a mentor, or that your company gives you a coach or a mentor, because exactly what you're talking about as a leader and manager at a certain age. So, and this will be the same throughout history. The same problem will hit us in 10, 15 years with the people that we don't even see in the workforce now. They will have the same problems. They need somebody who pulls them out of their day-to-day and make them think differently, because otherwise you will be stuck. So I think that's a human trait. It's very natural to do that. So you have to challenge yourself a lot more now, and constantly challenge yourself, because that's what's required from you with how the world is going and how work is going.
I mean, if you're talking about skills for the next 5 to 10 years, what do you have? What do you have in mind? What do you think? What are the skills that will be needed more, and what will probably be skills that become irrelevant?
So I think there's a few things, right? And I'll talk about it in generic before, and then there's two things that I really think are important for people. So generically speaking, I think the skills that will help anyone in the next 5 to 10 years are people with a flexible mindset, as this has helped people in the past. Again, we just need to look into history to understand what will happen to us at now in the future. So it's a lot about a flexible mindset. I think what will set you apart is if you're a person that can look out for future industries, future trends, and analyze a little bit where the world is going, and then trying to adapt with it. So you actually have to listen out a lot more than you did before. And then the other traits, of course, that I think will be really useful in a world full of AI, I always thought they will be really useful anyway, not just with AI, is all of these deeply human skills that we have. And I'm talking about what they call the soft skills, or I call the power skills, is how do you form relationships? How do you use your relationships? And how do you come adversity? How do you have flexible mind? So I think that's a really important part anyway. And then I think the other really important part is to remember what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, to remember that learning and developing is ingrained in us. It's ingrained in us from being a baby. It's ingrained into our brains, and it's ingrained into our survival mode. So I think whenever anyone sits there and gets overwhelmed with what they have to do, I think it's really important to remember that we have been here before. It's not that long ago. Maybe you haven't lived through it, and your parents have, or your grandparents have, but the reality is we're all made out of the same stuff. And we all have the same abilities. You just need to unlock them. And just knowing and resting in this feeling that we can, I think that's a really good thing to do. And then you just need to go and act on it. So the acting on it is the important part, because sitting there thinking about learning something is great. You actually have to go and do it, right? And I think this is also really important, actually. And this is what sets skills and people apart for the future. I think this is what will make you future-proof in the workforce and as an individual.
Mm-hmm. And what should leaders unlearn first if they want to collaborate effectively with AI and humans in the future?
Unlearning, interesting one. I think interesting. I'll come back to that in a second. I tell you one thing that I think is more essential than it has ever been, because this is a problem that has been around forever, and we just talked about it before we started the podcast, is actually to making sure that your leadership team works together,
Mhm.
making sure that your leadership team is all on the same page about what your company requires, what your teams requires, what makes your employees strong and good and healthy in an ever-changing world. So actually ensuring that your leadership team is together and doesn't build silos. I think that's the most important part for the future, because that is too human. You know, building silos is a way too human thing. We build silos, we build empires. But if you have a really strong leader who basically says, I have none of this. It's us, the vision and the mission of the company, and you guys work together and you tell me how you work together. I think that is the important part. How do you solve problems together from a leadership perspective? So it's the communication piece is the most important thing. Unlearning. What do leaders need to unlearn? I think it depends on the leader. Vastly depends on the leader.
Probably it's already silo thinking.
Yeah, true. So silo thinking in one way or the other. That's definitely true. And then in some cases, again, depending on the leader, it's definitely letting go of the old ego, you know, and cultivating the humility that you can learn from everyone and anyone at any given time. Because sometimes in leadership, of course, you need to have that stamina and thinking that you know everything and you are driving everything forward. But going back to still keep that flexible mindset of how you get there, right?
I mean, if we take this now as a complete picture, we said we want to get rid of silos, we want to get rid of these stereotypes, we want to get rid of this kind of really hard-coded paths of thinking. Doesn't that mean we are probably coming to the end of hierarchical organizations within companies?
I'd hope so.
I know it's a difficult one, but I mean, if I put it together, I think it's blocked by hierarchies. More or less, hierarchies are probably disabling this kind of evolution.
Maybe. I actually go as far and say that systems actually don't enable us at the moment like they should do, because the systems that we work with quite often aren't connected. So that means by definition our companies aren't connected properly department by department. There's only some systems that let us do that. Hierarchies, I think it depends on the company. There's a lot of companies now who run very flat structures, and that has pros and cons. So I think because of how we live as human beings and always have lived, I think a certain amount of hierarchy isn't necessarily negative. I think it's actually necessary to steer the boat, because if you were to be on a ship and you're going through the storm and everybody's trying to steer the ship, I'm not entirely sure if that works so well. If you have an experienced captain who has done it before, who is willing to work with the crew, I think that's a different thing. But what is essential, 100% for the future, is that we listen to people from the business that adapt to tools and systems and come up with solutions, and they are able to communicate up what the problem is and how they fix that and how they can work together. Because quite often when you create a strategy, it comes top down. It's just the way it works typically in most companies. A company strategy is set out for 6 to 12 months, you know, roughly, to make sure the company survives or, you know, builds new products or whatever it may be. And then the people within the company work towards that. But there's always some really clever people who figure something out that will, you know, make a massive difference to the company. And these are the people we need to listen to. So hierarchies, I'm not too opposed to. And I know that might just, you know, rub some people up the wrong way. I think a certain amount of hierarchy is necessary just because of how we are structured in society. But it's a flat hierarchy, that's for sure, with very little ways. But there's definitely people who need to filter what goes to the top and vice versa, because I've worked in companies with very little hierarchy, and people on the bottom think that everything needs to go to the top, and actually it doesn't, because they don't have the full picture, or they don't understand what we're doing, and they're just acting by the information they see and do all day. So a bit of hierarchy, I don't think is a bad thing. I think it just depends more on the leaders, on how capable they are to listen and things like that.
I mean, Meggy, as you have adapted to a lot of different kind of companies and leadership styles and market conditions in your career, do you have 2 or 3 little exercises that you probably personally use to train your learning and unlearning muscle on a daily basis that could be useful for the audience? So small things that you have probably tried out yourself or still practicing yourself to stay on track if it comes to learning and unlearning.
It's a good question. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I think there's something really strange for me personally. So I think when I was younger, I followed a certain path because I wanted to do some things really specific at work. And like you said, the stubbornness, and I wouldn't get past it. But then I remember there came a time where I thought, actually, and this is just in private life, where I thought I need to be a little bit more open to learn from, what does my partner get excited about? And in his case, it's, physics, and it's, astrology and planets and all of that. And that probably didn't speak to me so much initially, but then I thought, why wouldn't I actually? Because I might just learn something. I did open up, and it was really good. So I think, again, it's those little things where you need to challenge yourself to just look outside, schau über den Tellerrand, so look over the edge of your plate. It's a very Austrian saying, schau über den Tellerrand. So look over the edge of your plate to actually learn something. So that's something that worked for me, and that then worked in my professional life equally. I mean, just like you, Rudi, I think I am lucky in the sense that I always liked learning. Specifically when I'm interested in something. I struggle a lot more when I'm not interested in stuff like maths. I always found it really hard. So, when I was in school, I hated math. So I actually had to get a teacher that taught me outside of normal hours, normal school hours to help me with maths. Otherwise, I would have failed the class. And, they taught me, and it's not about not being able to do it. It was just that I had no interest in it whatsoever. And I can see that might happen to some people with AI, because some people might generally think, why do I need to? Because I only have 2 years in the workforce, or why should I when I'm young? Because I'm hanging around on TikTok and blah, blah, blah. Well, the reality is it's about your survival or not.
Yeah.
And this is equally, as much as I'm luckily want to learn about technology, I equally recognize that if I don't learn about technology, I get left behind, and I don't want to be left behind. So I think it's that sort of mindset you need to adapt. Do you want to be part of the revolution? And do you want to change the world and put it into a new place that you've never seen before, even if people think it's not possible? Then do it. I like being the underdog. So I am lucky that I think this way. And I probably have it from my childhood. I don't know where it comes from. I guess this is where it came from my parents pushing me out in the countryside and basically said, go away and come back in one piece.
Yeah.
And do whatever you like, as long as you're alive. It's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
really cool. Meggy, unfortunately, if we look on the timer, I think we're coming to the end already. So I think it could go on for hours, because it's such interesting topics, and it's always extremely inspiring for me to listen to you and your thoughts. I have one small exercise left. I think we didn't do it the last time, but I want to do it right now with you. It's a kind of a small this or that session.
Okay.
And I'm just throwing words towards you, and I ask you not to think about it, just give me a quick answer.
Okay.
So let's start with the first one. It's expertise or curiosity?
Curiosity.
Learning more or letting go?
Letting go.
Letting go, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, letting go. Data-driven decisions or gut feeling?
Data-driven decisions, it's all the way now in the future. You need your gut feeling, but data-driven decisions, it has to be. Yeah.
Okay. Job titles or skill portfolios?
Skill portfolios.
Playing it safe or taking smart risk?
Definitely taking a risk. But again, it depends, where you are in life and what you can and can't do.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm definitely more of a risk taker.
Meggy, it was a pleasure having you second time in Cappuccino with HR. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and expertise and ideas and feelings. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully see you in Berlin this year. So we tried it. I tried it several times now.
And now I have to go to now. You said it on a podcast.
Yeah, that was the reason. That was the reason why I mentioned it now.
Okay.
some smooth pressure, because I think the audience loves to see you on YouTube or probably hear you on Spotify, but I think they enjoy even
For
more
sure.
to have you, to see you on stage.
For sure.
And then I'm really going off script. I mean, that is what I normally do on stage. So great fun. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And the audience, I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did during the recording. Meggy, thank you. Bye-bye. And please stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, your upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by We Are Developers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on wearedevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.